Hello Internet, my name is The Hero and welcome to today's video. In today's video, I'm going to talk about my thoughts on some secret emotions that might show up in Inside Out 2. So as we know, when you get older, a lot of different emotions start taking over your body, right? And we know that we got some new confirmed emotions for Inside Out 2. We have anxiety, which absolutely looks bonkers. We have ennui, which is like very much about boredom, which a lot of teenagers get. And then of course we have embarrassment, which again, what teen doesn't go through being embarrassed? Come on. And then finally we have envy, which is another teen emotion that you go through, right? So they're touching on some really good emotions that Riley's gonna go through, and she's now 13 years old, probably most likely getting into high school age, right? Well, some of the thoughts that came to my mind is like, okay, in the first movie, they incorporated a lot of these emotions, a lot of this stuff into other characters, into the other emotions, right? But one of the things I was thinking about is like, where did these new emotions come from? Were they split offs from these other ones? Which makes the most sense because eventually, you would think they're going to come back around to the core 5 because her parents only have 5 emotions. They didn't have anxiety, they didn't have embarrassment. So it's like these emotions are like branched off or spawned from other emotions. I think that makes the most sense in terms of like theory wise when it comes to Inside Out 2. But one of my thoughts was like, okay, what other emotions are missing here that could potentially not only be an Inside Out 2, but if we have an Inside Out 3 about her going to college or something. So one of the thoughts I was having is like, there has to be some secret emotions that are going to show up, and they may not be like the main character emotions like embarrassment in you, envy, all that stuff, but they could be emotions that just show up and then like blink out, right? Almost like an uncontrolled variable that comes into the movie, into play, that like the other emotions have to like kick out, right? Because there's just not enough room in Riley's head for it. So one of the thoughts I had was like, what if we got like 2 main emotions that I think will be missing from like a teenager's life in here that we don't have, that's not confirmed, is love and depression, right? Those are like 2 things that are very strong that a lot of teenagers deal with that I think would resonate with the audience a lot more than some of these other ones. Like boredom, sure, a lot of people get bored, but I feel like if you want a more deep emotional impact in Inside Out, like the first movie was, why that movie was so successful would be to bring in something very deep. And I think being depressed and in love are 2 of the strongest emotions that a human can feel. And when you're in high school, we already got like a little bit of a snippet of her potentially having a love life by the idea of the boy that she ran into towards the post-credit scene and that she went on a date with in a Pixar short. Yes, it exists. Riley did go on her first date. So if you think that she's too young to date, well, Pixar don't think so. So I do see like this like love emotion showing up, blossoming, almost taking over sometimes. I've had this theory for a little bit when I did my old Inside Out 2 video about everything you need to know about the new movie that did pretty well. A lot of people enjoyed. They enjoyed my thoughts, my ideas behind like what Inside Out 2 could develop. And now that we got the teaser and we don't have the 2 emotions that I think should show up, I have a feeling that they could still show up just in little instances. But yeah, a lot of people, you know, go through being depressed in high school. One of the toughest things about being in high school is like all the new emotions that you have to deal with. And like depression seems to be one of those that a lot have to figure out, right? It's one of those that is very tough to handle, to get a control over. And I think that would be really interesting in Inside Out 2 if they have this kind of idea of like depression lingering around. We had this kind of idea in the first one that they were going to go with, which was like this very like luminous monster cloud, this gray cloud that would come over Inside Out world of Riley's head, right? And that was supposed to be the antagonist, like the villain of the story. And they ended up scrapping that and making the villain of the story ourselves, like us dealing with our own emotions is the villain. And like the gloom kind of disappeared, but the idea of having that depression cloud overhanging, it doesn't even have to have a personification, but this like rain cloud that kind of goes over throughout the movie, the more and more and more that Riley deals with as being a teenager, drifting over the land inside her head. I think that would be super interesting to think about, and like how Joy and the others can like try to take over and get depression out of, and how to deal with depression. I think that would like speak to a lot of audiences. I think that's why Inside Out 2 could be so great, is it has to have that strong, deep deep, impactful connection to the audience, because that is what made the first one so great. If they want to continue to make, you know, billions of dollars, it's going to have to be very strong in that way. And on the counteract, like having that love aspect could also mess with the joyness of what is being a teenager, right? Like imagine like love taking over parts of the brain that make you forget, you know, your worries, that make you forget about the depression. It makes you forget about being sad. And it makes like these other emotions kind of like start to disappear, something that was almost like a Thanos snap. And like joy and stuff has to like not only fight back against love, because being in love also brings a lot of joy, but also being able to keep the other emotions there, because love can't take over everything, right? You have to have these other emotions to live as a human, to be a human, to function. And I think that would be another cool storyline of just Joy having to deal with something. As we know from the first one, Joy had to figure out that all emotions were needed, right? You had to have all of them. You couldn't be happy all the time. It wasn't healthy. You couldn't be sad all the time. Again, not very healthy. And all these ideas of having this balance of emotions, and then these two new emotions come in on top of embarrassment and
anxiety.
All these ones coming in, and then them building and festering that cloud of gray, that depression that comes out. I don't know. I might be just visualizing this too much in my own brain. But it's got me excited, like the idea of what could possibly happen with this movie. Like just the idea of a gray cloud enveloping slowly over the film that they got rid of in the first movie and bringing that into the second one, I think that'd be cool. I think there's a way to connect that to audiences, and it shows like you could have a learning lesson again that every emotion is needed, including this depressed feeling that we sometimes feel, or this love that we want to forget all of our worries and just focus on one thing or one person, and like being able to bring those down to a level of understanding for everyone. I don't know. Again, I might be on my soapbox here, but I think this is like a great idea, and a lot of you guys thought it was so good in my other video. And it would be a nice way to have like a little twist, right? You don't know about these two other emotions that could show up in this movie. It's a cool idea, because I know that Joy's gonna have to allow these new emotions to take hold during the process of Riley growing up. It makes me excited to see if there's gonna be Inside Out 3. I know a lot of people don't like sequels, but I feel like if Inside Out 2 does very well, they can build on that, right? Because she's only 13 in this sequel, that they can build on that and make it her college life and what you have to deal with as a college person. And they can even go as far as bringing a more adultish film like how Soul was, right? Soul was so strong and impactful, bro. It was one of the best Pixar movies I've ever watched. It spoke to me on so many levels as an adult of like what dreams are and what, you know, what your life legacy that you leave behind, that kind of stuff. Strong, impactful adult themes, but also made it entertaining enough for kids, right? And I could see the same thing happening with like an Inside Out 3 or Inside Out 4, depending on how long they want to space out a human's life. But getting to the point where we get the inside look of an adult, right? We got her parents, like these 5 core emotions that we have to deal with, right, on a daily basis. And we see that inside of her parents' brain, but we also get these little glimpses of like who's in charge on those parent brains, right? Like we know Joy is in charge of Riley, and who knows, that could even change in Inside Out 2. Like what if embarrassment ends up being her main emotion? Because as we see with her parents, the main emotion was sadness for her mom and anger for her dad, which was super interesting to see, and like a little Easter egg of like what could be going on in their lives for those emotions to be the center emotion that the other emotions revolved around. So it'd be interesting to see if like there ever comes an adult version of Riley, and like what kind of like adult themes we can bring in while still making it obviously entertaining and spunky and quirky for the kiddos. I think that's amazing, and I love Pixar because of their storytelling so much, because it speaks to not just kids, it speaks to everyone. And anyway, I'm going way off topic here. But I think the core idea of being able to have these secretive characters, these secret emotions that play into the storyline of Inside Out 2, is very plausible, and it's something that I think could happen. I might be corrected when we get this the real trailers and stuff. It's something that I'm very excited to see, and I cannot wait. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. What you guys are you guys excited for Inside Out 2? What are your thoughts? What are your theories? And make sure to check out this other video that I made. You guys will enjoy it, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.